Hi Lumineers, welcome back to the Lighter Side Show. I'm your host, Jamie Butler, the Everyday Medium. And today we have a wonderful guest, Dr. Karin Luise. Yay!
Hey everyone!
And as usual, Lumineers, if you've been a listener before, you know the rhythm. I'm going to dive into some house notes first before we get to all the wonderfulness that Dr. Karin is bringing to the table today. And just to let you know, guys, it is Dr. Karin, and the way she taught me how to say it was...
Like car in the garage.
Boom.
Yeah.
Never forget it from
Stick
here
right
on
here.
out. Karin.
Correct. Yeah.
Not
yeah.
Karen.
Not Karen. It's German. Karin.
I didn't know it was German descent.
My mom's from Germany.
Mm-hmm. There we have it.
Yeah. Makes me stand out.
It does, and I like that.
Yeah, me too.
There are other things that make her stand out as well, and we're going to get to that when we talk about the labels we choose to believe in. All right, but before then, if Lumineers, you would like to participate in a live public channeling, we do it every month at the Center for Love and Light here in Atlanta, Georgia, and you can check out that schedule and topics and I think which spirits are coming at jamiebutlermedium.com. Also, that is the same website that has all the classes and workshops and great things that I'm doing around the world, because we're going to be hitting England, hopefully in July. Can I say that out loud right now?
It's in the works.
It's in the
Awesome.
works. And we'll have a link posted to the movie, The Creative Play of Consciousness, that I was so lucky to participate in. I'm so excited about that
So
one.
incredible. Yeah.
I'm still
It's
watching
huge.
the credits, guys. I don't know if that's ever
Huge.
going to go away.
Yeah. Just keep watching.
And we have advanced mediumship class happening the weekend of March 24th. So if that's something that you're looking for and you want to create a business out of what you're doing spiritually, it's a great place to go. So without further ado, let's dive into the labels we believe in. Because God, is that vast. Mm-hmm. So Dr. Karin is with us, and you are a psychotherapist. Mm-hmm. How long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this, like 10 years, in and out of different kind of specialties. But right now I'm in the spiritual realm, and I've kind of refocused since things have kind of changed for me. Thanks to Miss Jamie Butler and all my spiritual beings that have really helped me integrate spirituality with teaching. So I'm a clinically trained therapist with a PhD in counseling and psychology and education, but I'm now like a spiritual counselor because things happen and shifts happen, and I'm also a mom of 3, but I do inspirational speaking, and I'm also an author. I have a book, and I'm working on another one, so we'll do that now. Yeah.
The book is The Fatherless Daughter Project.
Yes. Understanding Our Losses and Reclaiming Our Lives, which I wrote with another wonderful woman named Dina Babel, and it's for anyone who has lost the bond with their dad due to death, divorce, incarceration, abuse, addiction, and it's really helped a lot of people. And for all those that understand spiritual awakening, so I was very clinical in the beginning of the book, and my spiritual awakening happened about right here.
In the middle?
Yeah. So the second half of the book is really filled with super spiritual stuff woven in with clinical stuff. So anyone that's still having daddy issues and that's dealing with, the after effects of not having a bond with your dad, I'm really proud of this book. It's published with Penguin Random House, and it's done really well. So pick it up if you still have stuff.
You guys have been touring and lecturing
Mm-hmm.
and even doing some workshops with the book title as well. And you have a nonprofit as well. You're the co-founder of the nonprofit for Fatherless Daughters.
That's true. We have the Fatherless Daughter Project, and it's at fatherlessdaughterproject.com. And we're hoping to do we have a retreat actually scheduled for in March, and that date is on our website at fatherlessdaughterproject.com. So that's going to be exciting.
Oh my God, you guys, I'm so lucky to have you here. You're
Yeah.
so busy.
Yeah,
And you
thank
can
you.
find out everything else that she's doing at drkarin.com.
Yeah.
And you spell out doctor. You're also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Like, we can find all your little tidbits and everything that you're putting out there. And I really love your Facebook posts.
Thank you.
I go through and I binge and I just
Yeah.
look at the ones you've posted.
Yeah.
You know, as I'm sitting down, I'm like, oh God, that one's great. And then I'm like, crap, it's 30 minutes later. I'm supposed to be gone. And I'm like, oh, and I close it out.
Oh, Jamie's been watching me. That's
It's
awesome.
true.
I love it. Yeah, I do the same
like
thing.
because
though.
you talk from you, like
Yeah.
what you're doing, what your experiences are. It's not like I'm reading. And no offense, Deepak Chopra, big lover of yours, but I know you can't do everything, and you probably have somebody running social media, and it's like post after post of things that are really astounding and good and inspirational, but it's like I know that it's a post, maybe it's written by somebody else. For you, like the I voice behind everything you're doing, it's like, I have a friend. I have somebody who's going through this too.
Yeah.
And somebody who's understanding it. And so it makes me want to read more and get addicted.
Well, thanks for saying that. I think it really speaks to what we're talking about today because, we can label ourselves, and I am a clinically trained therapist. Like, I've got this label of psychotherapist, which kind of scares people because the word psycho is in it. Somebody told me that. I was like, oh, I guess that is a weird word if you don't know what it is. And so that's a label that's on me, and, PhD is here. But then I have this wonderful new interest and skill set that's come my way, the past several years since my awakening is, since I've allowed it to happen. And so, I've had to also deal with labels and like recreating, what do I call myself here? And then what do I still stick to? And, because there's expectations involved. And so I've had this reformation. And so part of what I've done, which is what you just mentioned, is I've really tried to start speaking from my I voice. So thank you for honoring that.
Well, you have done it.
Because it's
great.
Because when you do that, you're also creating your own somewhat of a label, but an identity for yourself, and you're speaking your truth instead of allowing the labels that may be floating around you to identify you. And so, you're creating your own truth because, what we're going to get into is the fact that labels are created for a reason, but they tend to be way overarching and way too general and sometimes negative, and then they put us in a box. And so by using our I voices more and by identifying ourselves from our soul, our inner being, our higher being, we're going to recreate them for ourselves.
Do you think that we use labels just because we need them for communication purpose, or are we using labels to really connect and identify? Is that a strange question to ask?
No, there's got to be a why. I think so. As a clinically trained therapist, I know like we have this DSM diagnostic manual that we use, and there's we have to diagnose people, or the community that we work with says we have to diagnose because there needs to be some kind of a template, a format from where we treat people. And so they've created diagnoses, bipolar diagnosis, depression, whatever it is. So those are labels that are clinical, but they were formed in an effort, which was very well intentioned and well meaning and still is, to try to help formulate, ways of helping people feel better, medicines that might help them feel better, techniques. And so if not, like the complexity of the human experience is so big that we know that there's a continuum. Like there's not just one shade of blue, there's not one shade of depression, there's a million. But clinically, just to defend the reason why they're there is because they had to have somewhere to stand on and had to have something, to lean off of and to get the insurance companies to pay for. And so there's a lot of that, it's true, that goes on. But the shame of it is then it puts labels on people and it boxes them in, and we become really driven by that.
I've had several readings where clients will call in and they say, well, I'm under a therapist's care and they say I am XYZ. Mm-hmm. And their question following that is, am I? Like right. They're looking for some validation because they can't find the connection to it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's a way to organize, really, but it might not be that accurate blue label. It might be blue periwinkle,
right.
On a spectrum of something else.
Mm-hmm.
But when we hear it as people, we're like, oh, you're saying it's blue? It's blue.
Right.
It's not a variation of. So do you have ways or techniques in helping people get beyond and like understand the grayscale?
Right. Well, yeah, when you just said that, this is so awesome. Oh, Spirit just like totally. When you just said grayscale, what I heard was grace scale, which I love, because there's grace in acknowledging that there's a continuum, because it allows the person to not be inside this like black and white box. Because we've looked at mental health in this country pretty strongly the past several years particularly, and we're understanding it, but at the same time it tends to box people in, and that identification can be really harmful because then you feel really limited, and so we're talking about clinical diagnoses, but we'll just go with that for now because I know we're going to go into other things. But when I work with people, I'm not a big fan of using them. I mean, we'll say it and acknowledge it and say, well, what can we say that says about you? So what's your experience? And we don't say I have bipolar. What people tend to say now is I am bipolar. They use the words like I am a person that has bipolar, or I have bipolar experiences. So I go more into, let's talk about how this is feeling for you. Like, what is it? Because there's no hard lined, for me, overarching depression, bipolar, whatever it is that you can squeeze anybody to. So I allow the grace scale for them to where they can find their own place, and they also know that there's a way out. And there's ways of healing that then can come from a really spiritual place that maybe no one has shown them. And that's the beauty of doing what you and I do, which is helping them in that way, because community's not teaching that.
I really like you got them to look at the language of how they're saying it. So you said it goes from I am bipolar
Right.
to I have bipolar experiences.
Right.
All of a sudden, it's not the I am, my foundation, what I've made of, what I'm carrying. So, like, you do this in your sessions where you get them to communicate it in a way where then it's malleable. Like you said, they get a way out.
Yeah, because you're exploring it.
That is
Yeah, and you're
so
taking
wonderful.
it apart, because if not, it's just like this heavy blanket, and it almost, I don't want to say it's an excuse, it becomes a limit for them, because then they
Right.
walk in the room, I am this, and then what you are saying is, therefore I can't be this. Therefore I'm only limited to going this far. And it's like, well, let's talk about the experience and give you your own, like, we won't even need a label. Let's just describe it. Let's do an exploration of what you're actually experiencing around it. Let's talk about the emotion of it. How is it interfering with your life? Like, what's happening to you? And let's take this out of the room and instead discuss your experience. And then, find ways of doing a whole body connection where we can find a way out of what's really holding them out of being their authentic self.
Okay, so have you done practices in therapy in both ways? Like, I'm guessing that in your early days of practicing, it was the technical side where you had to do the labels, you filed the insurance and all that. And now you've made this shift into approaching therapy from many different angles. Like you said, integrated therapist. What's it like being, coming from one extreme end and finding this flexibility where still I think our country in America and possibly other countries, they're not caught up to speed of integration. They're still thinking in solid mass terms. Are you able to get people to understand it quickly? I mean, do you find that you also have to teach the family what you're doing or how you're approaching therapy? Do you have to teach their doctors how you're approaching? Like, are you running into brick walls?
You have to basically unlearn. I mean, I know it's like, we
tough.
talk about, I know you and I have talked so much about in your teachings that and how we've been so ingrained with the labels. And yes, I mean, I don't do that much work with their doctors. I help them if I will have a discussion, but I really want that person to find a foundation within themselves where they believe it so strongly that we're going to spread it, but it is tough to do because when someone's, especially when they've been raised with it, everyone's like, oh, I'm so ADD, I can't do this, I can't do that. But let's talk about what that looks like for you, and let's not let that limit you. Let's talk about, like, how is that getting in the way, and especially with relationships. I mean, that's the big one. How is this interfering, or how do you see yourself limited as a professional? And so, yes, as far as like the people in the workplace, the doctors they're working with, the family members, let's change our language around how we're looking at this. Let's stop putting this label on you and saying that it's going to interfere or somehow create then an expectation that we're just going to go this way and we're going to work here. Let's talk about how we can be malleable and work from the things that are specific to you. Like, what makes your heart beat faster in a good way? Like, where are you excited? Like, what makes you feel aligned? And let's ride the wave of, positive stuff in your life and try to make that win.
Dude, I can hear myself in the stories you're telling. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm absolutely guilty of
Everyone is.
naming the label. Like I carry the I'm stupid label, I'm dyslexic label, and growing up in my day and age, I just had a difficult time and I didn't want to be a burden. I'm a pleaser, so I wouldn't tell people I was having a difficult time learning or reading or doing math. I would just tough it out and hide it and be kind and sweet and loving and get my way through. Yeah. And so now when I'm doing things like even launching the Lighter Side Network,
She's super smart.
that's so weird though. Like
Yeah, I know.
I haven't had many occasions where I say that about myself, but this, I might start crying. Ooh, Lord.
Yeah, well, it's deep.
Pull back on those cameras right now. But like this is the first time in my life that I've done something, and I called my dad and I was like, I'm proud of myself. I was like, no, you don't get it. I'm really proud of myself. My dad says, I'm proud of you too. I said, did you just hear me? He goes, I did. He's like, that's the first time you've ever said that. I go, I know, because I've always thought I didn't do it right or good enough because I'm stupid. I still haven't gone like, I am so smart and stuff like that yet. But the pride piece, oh my God, guys, it feels so good to work on yourself and be able to connect to those things that you just thought you weren't gonna. Oh, it is so good.
That's huge.
It is huge.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because, like, I've known Jamie for several years, and I know she's super smart. And so, but that's like, you hear people say that, and I guarantee you everybody that's watching or listening can connect. Everybody can connect to something. And that's a big one for people. That's a big trigger. I mean, I have a really, really good friend that deals with that with writing. And when she gets triggered, it like bottoms her out because it's from childhood. And that wound is like literally like you feel it immediately because you feel like it defines you and then limits you, but with someone like you, and I learned a lot of this from you, so much of the experiences that people are having with these issues, I mean, there's so many spiritual components that are going on too. It's like, well, let's look at why, like the dyslexia for you. I mean, I know you had like all this other stuff going on, and someone that maybe have really extreme emotional experiences, or someone that may not be able to attend to things and be labeled ADHD. Let's look at why, like what is actually, like something's happening in you that's probably really supercharged that we can give grace to, that will explain this, that's coming from like a whole body level and mostly a soul level, that's just not being explained in our culture through diagnoses.
Oh my God, are you working with children?
Yeah. Well, I
do. You work with
yeah.
families? I mean,
it's coming my way. I used to be actually an early childhood education teacher. I used to teach second, third, and fourth grade, and now I have 3 little ones, ages 8, 8, and 6. So I am, because I work with them every day at school, and I have one that's struggling right now. We actually are seeing a specialist today, actually after I leave here. So it's hitting home for me too, but I'm very sensitive to really recognizing for him and really flipping these things to saying, look, there's a strength here, like the inability to do something that culture says you should be doing this way. There's something else happening with you there's a spiritual meaning behind it. And let's focus on what is beautiful about you that's just interfering with what culture is expecting from you. And even though we may not be able to convince the world, like let's convince you so that you can start to be proud of yourself like you've learned to do. I mean, look how long that took you, but hooray. Because I'm proud to know you and proud of everything you do, but see, everybody deals with it. I mean, I'm so glad you said that, because people, it gives them permission to also be honest about those kinds of things.
Oh my God, next week I'm 44, and this is the first time in my life I'm, for genuine, like really proud of what I'm doing. But I was listening to you talking about connecting to your kids, and I was getting really excited on the inside, and like graffiti bombs going off in my head. I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah, it's true.
As our generations are moving on, this hand-me-down label system is starting to change.
Yeah.
It's not, I definitely in my household haven't looked at my children and said, you're stupid. I have a son who's dyslexic and extremely empathic, and boy, he is not made for public school.
Right.
He's not. When we tried this year, and Lumineers, if you've been listening, you've heard some stories about Luca and his sensitivities. And I have, on many occasions, been frustrated. And I tell directly to him, I was like, I'm frustrated, but it's at this angle. I'm not frustrated with you. I'm frustrated because I want to give you a safe space, and I want to provide you with an answer, and I can't. So we got to do this together. And I've noticed that he's not leaving beating himself up anymore now that we've got him away from public school. He's telling me it's okay. Like, he tells me it's okay. And it's not the covering up kind. It's like a really real kind of conversation. And I don't think I would have ever have gotten that if I would have just gone, all right, well, you're dyslexic and this is what your life is going to be, and you're this and you're that, and just labeled them up into a box and said, let's manage that.
Right.
It's not about managing anymore. That's like a survival mode, isn't it?
Well, I mean, you would know, because you were raised with the same, or you grew with that label over you too, so you knew what that was like at every milestone. So you have a sensitivity to it, thank goodness, that lets you know, look, this environment may not be good for him. Thank God there was another opportunity for you, another option for you. For him, that's a better fit. I mean, I wish, that's like, that I wish there were more options like that let the kids, we just don't have the capacity and the school system and the resources, and it's so frustrating. But I mean, right now I'm dealing with it too. Like, I hate to single my kid out, but we're having a real issue right now, and I don't know what to do. And I'm the same way. I sat down last night, like trying on my bag of tricks, and he wants me to go to school with them, and it's like, I can't fix it. And what's the answer? So I still don't know my answer, but I hear you. But, I think continuing to talk through it and continue. Luckily, he has you as a mom. You guys picked each other. I know we picked each other too. And so, there's part of that teacher exchange between both of you that's going to continue to learn. But I agree with you. It's highly, highly frustrating. But I love that he's in a place where he can feel safe enough now and like authentically claim his feelings.
You mentioned that that was achievable because of the sensitivity. Like I had a sensitivity to that
Yeah.
dyslexia, but maybe I don't have a sensitivity to ADHD or even beyond that, another kind of label or whatnot. How can I be more aware that I am not sensitive to something and maybe I'm feeding somebody's label, like helping them believe in their own label unknowingly? I mean,
Yeah, I think, I'm to be aware when a label or diagnosis or some overarching word comes up, where we automatically make assumptions, because what happens is
that when the bell in our head
expectations.
needs to go off?
Well, it would be nice. Wouldn't that be great? I mean, I wish I could say, yeah, you know what, sound the bell.
Do it.
For everything. I mean, if you see any post of mine that's personal, like my pet peeve is people that are judgmental and that immediately make assumptions and expectations, because it's happened to me. I mean, people like see me or they know something about me or where I've been, and all of a sudden, I mean, everyone goes through that, feeling misunderstood. I mean, it's a very universal feeling. And so, I would beg people for the grace. I stopped because I don't know if beg's a strong word, but it kind of wants to come out, like to give people the grace of just stepping back and, hearing the story. That for me is huge, because I need that from people. Like as much as you want to be heard, as much as you don't want a label or, the one bad day that you had when the person saw you scream at your kid in the Target parking lot and all of a sudden you're like the bad mom.
You're the bad mom.
I know we've all done, I look up and someone's standing there and I'm like, no, 95% of the time I'm really great. They saw that, and you want the grace. I mean, and it's like, I would beg people just to step back and just ask more questions. Just listen. Well, how does that play out for you? So okay, the label. So you suffer from. A lot of people have suffered from depression. You suffer from that. What does that mean for you? Like, what is it? How does that play out in your life? And just listen to the story more
Instead of taking on your definition that you've
Right.
created somehow,
Right.
because we know that's not going to fit the other person,
Right.
because we're all completely individual and different. So then asking the questions and listening to the story to learn their definition.
Oh yeah, I mean it's so beautiful to do that, because then you're giving them not only permission to be truthful and to share, but you're letting them open up, and in that I think can come more opportunities for both parties to grow, and you can unhinge those labels that lock us up inside those boxes, which nobody wants.
I have two things running through my head right now. I don't know which one to grab. I'll go with the first one. Assumption and expectation. Right. That's the alarm. Mm-hmm. That's the bell that happens. Mm-hmm. And then you provided some techniques like listening.
Yeah.
Listening to the person's story. Asking more questions.
Yeah.
And then you can create your relationship with that, whatever's happening. Not necessarily creating a new label, but a relationship with.
Yeah, let me tell you, this is so interesting. It's interesting when you picked this topic for this podcast. When I was getting my undergrad, this is actually what my thesis was on. And and there's a study and that's like groundbreaking. And they took these kids that all had the same, on average, the same IQ. And they put them in a classroom and they told the teachers from the beginning, they picked out 20% of the kids and they said, these kids are going to be our late bloomers. They're showing that their IQs are going to exponentially rise this year. So just keep an eye on these guys and expect the most from, these 10 kids or these 5 kids. They showed at the end of the year, even though they all had tested actually pretty much around the same medium IQ, the ones that were expected to be the late bloomers, actually, their IQs went up by 5 to 6 points by the end of the year, and the other ones stayed the same. And it was merely, the assumption is, based on the research, was that because the assumption was put, now the kids were not aware of it, but the ones that were working with them, the teachers and the leaders, because the expectation was there, it was massaged and grown, and it formed like a massive energy that was a self-fulfilling prophecy, and they assumed the other ones would stay where they were. So the test, so I'm just giving you the research because I'm also a clinician, for those of you that like the science behind stuff. I mean, that's been shown over and over again. So when instead of doing that kind of a thing, I'm just showing you how strong expectations play out. Instead of, you suffer from long-term depression or deep depression or bipolar, like, I'm not going to expect you to never be okay and never be happy, therefore I'm not going to want to be around you. Gosh, tell me how that feels for you, and when have you ever felt better, or gosh, when did that start? And listening to the story, I'm really insecure. Gosh, where do you think that came from? I'm trained in doing that kind of a thing, but when you sit and look a person in the eyes and ask, like, what happened for you? Not like challenging it, but just giving room for a dialectic between two people. I mean, it's like flowers bloom when the people are able to sit and be safe, especially if they know you're safe. And I'm seeing like unhinging, like things just popping up and growing and flourishing in a way that they haven't been able to flourish before, because it gives permission and allowance for more conversation and openness.
All right, so now I have one complaint that I am imagining that many of the listeners and viewers have, which is what you're saying requires time.
Yeah.
This is not a quick conversation. You're not going to be like, all right, come on. Come on, tell me your story. How did it go? Speed up for me?
Right.
Like, okay, no, we totally got it. Let's go. Yeah, we're good. No, you're talking about chilling out, really getting to the source of it, and really listening.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us in our culture and our society, we don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
We have been trained now for year after year after year to keep the momentum going. That if you're slow, you're lazy, or you don't have a direction. So how are we going to get our heads to kind of agree that when we hear the assumption and expectation that it's okay, hey, you're going to be okay to take the time to invest in this. It's not going to be lost time.
Yeah.
Is
It's
that
so
like
beautiful.
stepping away from ego too?
Yeah. Oh gosh, all this is stepping away from ego. Yeah, because it's giving permission for something new, and it's putting the soul first, and it's honoring the person. And I know we don't all have time to sit and do that, but it's even if you say to the person, how about we just not use that label? Like, we know that's an experience you've had. I'm not going to expect you to be that way. You can start there. Like, that's a very simple. If this is an important person in your life, you can start with that. Like, you know what? I just watched this podcast, and I know that things can be different. So how about we just say you have depressive or angry or whatever experience is, instead of putting that label on you, and just see where it goes. And then as time goes on, as you're sitting down and having time together and connecting, block off that time if you really want to invest in this person and have that conversation and let those conversations come. And being present, I mean, it's huge, and it's hard to carve out. It is, but if it's someone that you genuinely care about, or if it's yourself and you need that from other people, ask them to watch this and ask them to sit down and give you some time, because people are really afraid of diagnoses, because number one, they don't really know what they mean. Number
Right.
two, they're afraid of how they're afraid they're gonna like trigger you, like, oh, what's this person gonna do? Like, what does that look like when it comes out? So there's a lot of fear, and so it's just not like, I mean, so many people that claim these, I don't say the diagnoses are, I mean, deep down, like, struggling and so beautiful and often extremely smart. And, they've learned how to contain it, but to have someone sit in their presence and really hear their truth and allow them to explore that and be understood. I mean, isn't that what we all want? That's Oprah used to say that all the time. Everyone just wants to be understood. That's why her show did so well, And so by giving that to each other, it's a huge gift.
I feel like every time we say the name Oprah, we have to go light a candle somewhere. Pay homage.
Yeah, it's true.
Give.
Yeah, she did pave the way, for sure.
For a lot of things, which very grateful. So in the act of slowing down to have a conversation, do you have any tips for the hurried up mind? The like I touched on it briefly a second ago, but the kind of thing in the back of your head says, yeah, that's their stuff. Like, you got it when they said it the first time. Is there some kind of coddling or attention that we can give our own mind just to, get it to shush?
Yeah, I think I just posted the other day that we should want, as much as we want to be understood, we should also want to understand. And I know, because we are so fast-paced here, and, I think that what we do to ourselves too, because I have friends that claim the ADD diagnosis. I've been diagnosed with it before. I mean, whatever. I understand it now as like a benefit, because you can tend to 100 things at once. But people often will say, I'm like, dude, you can rule a company. Like, it's not a bad thing. But instead of saying, because people do this, oh, look, I'm not good at listening. Like, I have a really hard time. Then you're labeling yourself too. Then you've said, I can't do it. Like, look, let's get that language out of the way. That's just an excuse to not be invested in the relationship, because it's scary.
Oh my God, an excuse. Holy cow. So we could have a label that's not really a label, it's just an excuse.
Yeah. I mean, people do, because when you sit and invest in somebody like that, I mean, there's fear. Then you also have a vulnerability of being like intimately connected through the conversation, and then maybe layers of you might also come off. So, this is why I do what I do, and why I love having these conversations, because it's like that's where we form these connections, and that's where we deepen ourselves, and that's where maybe we're discussing a label, but when we're truly present with somebody, and we're not only wanting to be understood, but we want to understand, it's. Also, mind you, karma's big, and it's going to come back to you. Like, you're going to receive the energy that you're putting out. So it'll end up being a win-win. But when you sit down with someone that really wants to be heard, remember that gift is going to come back to you as well. And so, it is quieting the mind. It is just like, let me hear. Let me really tune into this person. Number one, put your phone away. And let me...
Wait, say it again.
Yeah, number one, put your phone away. Like, don't even have it face up.
Wait,
unless your child is maybe in an emergency. Yeah, go ahead.
Dr. Karin, did you just say put your phone away?
Put your phone away.
Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's so... And I know we can do like a whole thing on this, but let's just say this simply. When your phone... And I understand sometimes you need to, because I have kids, and I think, sometimes you may need to be alert, but just at least turn it over, because if not... I mean, you're
every
watching...
time it flashes.
Right.
Wasn't there some study done with your phone? It's like a reward system that
I'm sure.
Yeah, when something pops up and then you get to read it, you're like, "Ooh, I caught it! I received something positive." So it keeps you trained to look and catch and go and go and go, even though you really aren't waiting for an important email or anything. You're just seeing how many emails have come in, how many texts did I get, how many posts on Facebook, and it's a reward system. So can we give ourselves different rewards, like listening?
Face-to-face connection,
understanding,
like real connection. I mean that's a whole nother podcast, but let's just keep it real here and say yes, please. Like, this is such a big part of it. It's please allow yourself to have that face-to-face connection and really embed yourself, in those moments. Even if it's just 5 minutes, I would beg for 20. I'd beg for an hour, but to be fully present with somebody, and I know it can be scary because you can't, at least I know when you're on the phone you can correct your words or whatnot, but oh my gosh, it's so much more. The payoff is so much deeper when you're having these conversations, and then you get to know more about who you are as well, and it's real. I mean, it's it's a big one.
I've noticed what I do when I'm having a deep conversation with my husband, and I've set it up and we've made time for it, and when I start to feel like I'm not being understood, or maybe I'm not saying it in the right way because I'm not getting the response I expected, which is number one.
Yeah, that's big.
Because I came in with an agenda that I didn't need to have. I really wanted to hear what he was doing. I do this walk away bit. Boom, I turn and I start doing, oh look, no, we got to do this now. Yeah. And I fidget and I move, and I caught myself, it was this week. I put everything down and I turned around and I went, I apologize. I didn't need to walk away. I just didn't know what to say. I was like, let me come back. So I came back, and then I made a joke of, kind of like Jesse, our producer here, take two. And I was like, take two. I was like, talk to me again, and I want to listen. And he just looked at me like,
who are you?
Yeah, like, that was nice. But I didn't realize that once I felt like I was hitting a wall, whether it was knee high or 100-foot high, that I would turn my body and kind of disengage. My ear was still working, but my body was like, well, we're just going to show him that we don't like what he's saying, and I'm not doing it anymore. And it's actually changing the way that I'm listening to him. Something simple like that, even though I thought I was doing a really good job.
It's so big, and the fact that you owned it is so huge. I mean, if we all did that, I mean, oh my gosh, we all have relationships where that never happens. I know I have, and it's so highly frustrating. But when someone, no matter what the conflict or disagreement or lack of fulfilling an expectation is, if we ourselves can stop and just say, okay, I just saw what I just did. Take two, let's start again. Yes. Like, I'm going to own that. I'm sorry it was disrespectful, and I really want to be here and let you share your truth and your experience of what you believe we're talking about, and give you your space instead of punishing you for not fulfilling what I need. Oh, it's so hard.
I had no idea that I was punishing or shunning something just from, the posture, or leaving the room and going, keep talking, I can hear you. Yeah. No, that's not right.
Yeah. Well, it's ego and it's subconscious. It's just, by the way. Yeah.
It is?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's
put
the
myself
ego
back
being
in
like,
the
well, then I'm
game.
going to rise up to a position of power because I can do this and make you feel a little disempowered, which you're not consciously thinking. It's subconscious. Yeah, and so by disengaging, I'm going to take my power back and I'm going to go over here and kind of halfway because then I'm going to rise up. That's just, it's ego. So yeah, when we recognize the ego is getting in the way and it's trying to make us do this, when we realize and we really need to be here, because the relationships that are going to work the best are, I mean, oh my gosh, if you can stay here more than keep doing this, I mean, it's, oh my gosh, I mean, that's beautiful. I mean, it's magic happens.
Amazing. And the thing that caught me was the expectation that I acknowledged I wasn't hearing what I thought I wanted to hear, and that made me stop. But come on, I mean, life's moving so fast. I'm not catching all those little things.
Right.
How are we, like, I mean, I enjoy being a perfectionist, so when I acknowledge something or learn something, I want to apply it to every part of my life. But then I'm not getting everything done because I have to move so slow to communicate well, to listen better. I have to give myself to the moment and not think about, crap, the bank is already closed. It's 4 o'clock. You missed that one.
Yeah.
And you won't do it tomorrow, so now you got to find somebody. And then I thought, gosh, there should be like an Uber bank service where they come to your house and they pick up those deposits. You know, and then my head goes, oh, well, you can actually take a picture of it on the phone.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do that because I don't want to get hacked. And, you know, and then I go monkey mind.
That's so funny.
And so,
Yep.
like, how is it when you're doing therapy with people, you know, where's this nice balance of, great, you learn something and you want to apply it, but it's not about consuming yourself with it. Where's the gentle middle space of being human? I was like, the gentle middle space of being human.
You know, it is, and it comes up in every session, and it comes up for me too. I mean, that exact bank statement question, I actually had the same mental gymnastics game go on in my mind last
Mental
week.
gymnastics,
I'm like, and
yeah.
you actually can, Karin, because there's an app on your phone, you can take the picture. I know, I feel like I'm the only one that actually goes in the bank anymore. I'm like, I know, I'm the only one that actually walks in with the checks. But anyway, back to what you were saying. I think, you know, it goes back to grace for the self. We're so hard on ourselves, and like I have to work on it, but I'm also with clients, it is a constant, it's like an art form for us. It's like to grant ourselves and to bring us back to a place where we're granting ourselves grace and where we say, you know what, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm allowed to slow down. I'm allowed to be imperfect. Like there's nothing wrong. Like nothing I've done is wrong, and that's huge. Like everything that's happened to this moment and in this moment is exactly the way it is supposed to be. If there's something I need to correct, if I've hurt somebody, it's okay. We're going to flow into that, and I'm going to do what I need to do to correct that. But everything is happening exactly in the space to help me grow that it's supposed to help. Everything is exactly as it should be. And just taking deep breaths and honoring yourself, and just knowing that you are in the space you're supposed to be in without rushing in. And perfect, again, so let's talk about perfectionism for a second. It serves you well because, I mean, look, the studio is beautiful. The work that you do is beautiful. You know, it keeps you looking beautiful. It's, you know, there are reasons that serves you and why in this life that's been like a great quality of yours. But then you've got the hindrance side, where then it gets in the way, and there's like self-judgment and criticism and all that. So what I would want you to do is really honor, look at how beautiful this is playing out. Let's turn this into like life being fluid. So that's what I do too a lot with people. Let's flip that this is going to be hard and that we're going to judge ourselves. And do you know what? I'm going to be so good at this and it's going to happen. Maybe not in the exact time that my monkey mind is making me think it should happen, but it's going to be fluid, it's going to be easy, and dare I say fun. It's going to be fun. And you know what? It's going to happen in perfect alignment with who I am called to be, and I'm going to just let the other stuff go. And I do teach, you know, meditation and deep breathing and those things that can help our physical body to also calm down. But oh my gosh, give yourself grace, people. Give yourself grace. You're right where you're supposed to be. Everything is happening exactly as it's supposed to be. And once you breathe into that, all that cortisol and all that, you know, adrenaline that has gotten you so angry at yourself, you automatically, through deep breathing, will train yourself back down.
Okay, in that sound clip, and Jesse, let's just put that on a loop for myself, please. Thanks. I want to listen to that when I go to bed, and I want to listen to that when I wake up. I think that will
Me too.
really get
believe
me going.
Yeah, me too.
And give myself the permission to be imperfect. I adore that.
Oh gosh. Brene Brown writes about this right now, and she's done extremely well because everybody relates to it. And she got up on a stage and said, oh my gosh, all this crap's happened to me. And she gave her truth in a way that showed vulnerability and talked about her imperfections. But oh my gosh, millions of people related, because we don't talk about that, because dare we say to somebody that we're imperfect, and then we're shining a light on our imperfections, and then that makes us feel more vulnerable. She's on stages doing it. She's writing books about it, and she's done so well because people are like, oh my gosh, I feel that way every day. So everyone's relating to this, and that's what's wonderful about these podcasts is, it's then, so what do I do about it? I take a deep breath and I say, I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And the other thing, I'm obsessed with Abraham Hicks, and they talk about this all the time. Everything is working out for me. Like, I do that now. That's part of my mantra. Everything is going to work out for me. It's all going to be fluid. It's all going to be fun. I'm allowed to be right where I am, and everything's going to work out. And I teach my kids that too. Everything's going to work. Everything is solvable. As long as we're all here and healthy and we're good. Like, all those issues you're worrying about, we're good. We're good. Everything is working out for you. So that's a big one. That's helped me a great deal.
It's a huge one.
It's huge. Yeah, because it takes the fear.
Getting all excited and flustered, and feels so good to talk about it.
It does.
It reminds me of the giving yourself permission to be imperfect. The real expensive Turkish rugs, the patterns, and even in the ancient Chinese rug patterning, they would do the pattern on the rug absolutely pristine. Every bit of wool, yarn, silk, whatever it is, and there would be one stitch perfectly misdone, because their concept of perfection was imperfection.
I love that.
And so when I sit on top of the rugs at my house and I watch the patterns and I look and I find that one piece that's not done right, because it's done on purpose. And it's like,
Yes.
that's this.
It's such a metaphor. It's so beautiful. And it's so hard in our culture. I mean, we get it wrong. We get it wrong over here in the Western world. I mean, the capitalistic view of driving to perfection and working is so hard on us. It's so hard on our bodies and our minds and our spirit. It's hard on our children. It's hard on us as women, as men. And, to get this piece, like, I really believe that our consciousness is shifting and that people are starting to get this, because, I mean, these conversations are happening. We're here. And once we allow for that grace, and we're allowing other people from that the same grace, and we're lifting these labels and recognizing that people are individuals that are, of course, imperfect. The work is never done. I mean, ever. And there's another one that I posted that I don't know which culture it is, but it was Eastern. And the image is a bowl that had a severe crack in it. It was an ancient bowl, and it had been filled with gold. And how much they honor the cracks in the bowls, it's the same thing. And how it's seen as a piece of beauty. And that is the most beautiful part of the piece of artwork, or the bowl, was the crack that was in it.
Yeah, that was beautiful. I saw that one. I liked it.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. Oh gosh, I could go on and on, but it's when you allow the imperfection and you take a deep breath. And here's the other thing that to me is also really key. I'm a therapist, so people tell me their secrets, and let me tell you, everybody struggles with this. Everybody feels there's a thing called the imposter syndrome, where everyone, especially men, feel like they're going to get found out that they're not really as smart as they say they are, and they're going to get caught at work not being the expert they're claiming to be. It's a universal feeling. And to me, it takes the air out of the tire of frustration when you understand everybody's dealing with this. Like, it's not just you. You're not the only one that's living in fear that somehow people are going to discover you're imperfect. Everybody is. So for goodness sakes, people, let's all take a deep breath. It's a universal experience, because all of us are imperfect. Everybody's struggling with it. I hear it all the time. And I just wish that we would have those conversations where we'd have, oh, me too. Oh, you too. Oh, me too. Well, tell me more about you. And I'm going to listen. Tell me more about you. And I'm going to listen, and I'm not going to walk away. And if I do, I'm going to catch myself, and I'm going to come back. And just really engaging in those open conversations and celebrating the imperfections. How about that?
And start picking the labels off of it.
Picking the labels off 100%. Instead of compressing, allowing the people to be individuals, and explain.
This moment has gone by so fast, Lumineers.
Yes.
My head is extremely blown, and my heart is very full. I know our time is up together, Lumineers, but please don't cry, because I'm going to do my very best to keep this beautiful Dr. Karin back in the studio. So we'll love to have you back again.
Thank you. Of course.
Please.
Of course.
And Lumineers, you want to find out about Dr. Karin, spell it out, and that's KARIN.com. She's also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Am I missing anything else? She's
Instagram,
everywhere.
Twitter, we got it all. Other day I said Facegram, Instabook, whatever. Yeah.
Oh, those things.
I'm out there. Just Google Huffington Post. I've got articles everywhere. I mean, just punch it in. You're smart people. You'll find
That
it.
is true.
Yeah.
You guys are very smart
you
people.
Too, whatever. Yeah.
And
Yes, I
I'm
would
proud
love
of you.
Yes. And I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Oh, I love you so much.
love you
Thank you
too.
for this.
Thanks.
Lumineers, thank you so much for being here. Remember, it's not woo-woo, it's true. Bye.
See you later.
With Jamie.